Hi, I'm Dwayne King.
And I'm Jennifer Ford-Smith. Welcome back to our AML Microlearning series. Today, we're going to open up the mailbag and answer some of your questions.
We have vetted the questions out for personal identifiers and business names. I'm excited to start with the first question, which is about investigations. When we are conducting an investigation, how long back into a customer account activity should our review go?
So I think that's really important for our investigators out there. When you're looking at the account and considering the patterns of activity in there, you want to make sure you're including pieces like negative media. If negative media is hit, let's say a year ago, you should be including that in your review period and seeing if that pattern of activity is repeating itself. And if it is, and if you see transactions that are related, that are even as recent as yesterday, those should be included as well.
For sure. I think there's two really key important pieces to this. Adhere to your policies and procedures, but also document the rationale for your review period. Because when the regulator comes in, they're going to want to see a well-documented rationale, whether you did a 2-year review or a 6-month review.
Makes sense. All right, question number 2 has to do with cryptocurrencies. If I see my customer interacting with a dealer in cryptocurrency, is that an automatic STR?
I don't think there's any automatic STRs. I think that you have to reach reasonable grounds to suspect, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the suspicious activity regime or the suspicious transaction reporting regime, you have to reach reasonable grounds to suspect. And just because someone is interacting with cryptocurrency does not hit that threshold. I interact with cryptocurrency. I think what's important is you have to understand what you know about your customer and whether the account activity aligns with what you know about your customer.
That's it. It's all about KYC, right? And understanding that.
So question 3 is about requests for information. How important is it to reach out to the customer to ask questions about their account activity? It can be offensive to some of the customers.
So I think here's where we look to our experienced investigators to really understand the balance. Once you've reviewed the account activity, you want to make sure that you've exhausted all investigative pathways. So have you looked for open source information? Have you used other ways internally of reaching out for information before you're reaching out to the customer?
For sure. And if you have exhausted all other investigative avenues, sometimes it is very important to reach out and ask the customer, but you can do that tactfully. Mm-hmm. Train your investigators on how to ask tactful questions so they don't have to offend your customers.
And it's an opportunity for the person asking on the front line, asking the question of the customer, to make sure that that customer has the right accounts, the right products set up.
For sure.
Right, so question 4 is about risk assessment and risk rating of customers. So if after I conduct my risk assessment, all my customers are rated as low risk, is that okay?
I don't think it is okay. I think that maybe you're doing a more global look to your risk or national look to your risk versus really looking at your inherent internal risk. Because I think you need to look at your customer base and determine who within that customer base represents a higher risk to your organization. I know that's hard to do, but if you look at the NHL, for instance, if you make the NHL, you are a high caliber player. But even within that high caliber players, there are people that are called out as exceptional within that already high caliber. So I think that you can do the same thing with your customers.
I like that analogy. Question 5 is about VISDONs. What's that?
A VISDOC is a voluntary self-disclosure of non-compliance. And it allows organizations, when they're doing a review or they come across in their day-to-day business, if they notice they failed to report something or they made an error on a report, to report that to FINTRAC without suffering from any administrative monetary penalties. And I say that because if you look at the guidance that was released by FINTRAC in August of this year, it specifically says if it is not a repeat disclosure, if the disclosure is not happening after FINTRAC is telling you they're coming in to do a review, then they will work with your organization to help you fix the issue. They will not look at an administrative monetary penalty. FINTRAC has stated over and over again that it's not all about the penalties for them, it's about compliance for the sake of intelligence, not compliance for the sake of compliance.
And that's it. If somebody's on the fence about whether or not to report, you want to do that before you receive the letter when you've identified that.
As soon as you identify the issue, bring it forward to FINTRAC. So our last question is about Project Participate. I was reading that there's a new initiative called Project Participate. Is that similar to other FINTRAC initiatives like Project Chameleon?
So I think the best way to answer that question is to have Peter Warwick on our show next time.
I agree. Peter is a strong believer in public-private partnerships, and he's the best person to answer that question. So stay tuned next episode when Peter Warwick will talk all about public-private partnerships.
Thanks so much for the questions. If you'd like to reach out to us for training or any of our AML services, please do so in the comments below or through our contact info.
If you've missed any of our previous episodes, you can look us up on YouTube by searching for AML Microlearning Series. I'm Dwayne King.
And I'm Jennifer Fordsmith. Thanks for watching.